Hello guys, it's Josh here. Welcome back to History with Josh. We're back again on the AQA GCSE Germany, Dictatorship and Democracy 1890 to 1945 topic. We finally reached section 2, the rise of Hitler and the Nazis. So we've looked at 1924 to 1929, the Golden Age, and the year of crisis 1923, hyperinflation and the invasion of the Ruhr, along with the other things we've done. Now we move on to post-1929 and Hitler's rise. So just some stuff about Hitler. He was born in 1889 in Austria. His father was a civil servant. Hitler wanted to be an artist, but however was rejected by Vienna Art School. He lived as a tramp for several years, but he joined the German army in 1914, and in World War I he was awarded the Iron Cross for bravery. The Nazi Party. It was formed in 1919 as the German Workers' Party, or DAP, and it was based in Munich. The founder was Anton Drexler, as seen on the left. A very small party, only around 50 members in 1920. Policies included making Bavaria, South Germany, into a separate country. So, what did the Nazis stand for? There were some anti-Weimar things, but yeah. They wanted to abolish the Treaty of Versailles, which would appeal the German people. They wanted to destroy the Weimar Republic. And they wanted to destroy Marxism. They didn't want any communism. And if you know anything about what Hitler does, he wanted no other political parties. He didn't want any political opposition. He wanted to control. He wanted to challenge terror and violence with terror and violence, scaring people into not doing it. He wanted to remove Jews from all positions of leadership in Germany, which was very anti-Weimar. No non-Germans to be newspaper editors. However, he would educate gifted children at the expense of the state, increase the old age pension, which was again an appeal to the German people. He wanted a strong central government to nationalise important industries, which are both very controlling, and conquer Lebensraum and Rome, Germany. And this led on to the Munich Putsch in 1923. I said led on. We are past 1923, but we go back to it here. So, the Munich Putsch was Hitler trying to seize power over Germany by storming into the capital. He had some of the leaders at gunpoint in a room, but he let them go. They called the police, and he was later imprisoned, where he published Mein Kampf. But why did he decide to launch an uprising in November 1923? Hitler believed that the Weimar government was crumbling and that people would support a party like his taking over. Hitler also believed he had the support of local council in Bavaria. Gustav Kahr, Bavarian minister, had been heard plotting against the government himself. Finally, Hitler thought he had the support of the army. An important ex-general, Ludendorff, supported Hitler's plans. It was thought that the army would support the putsch if Ludendorff was involved. As we can see, Munich's down south. And we can see Essen, Düsseldorf, Cologne, Frankfurt, Mainz, Nuremberg, Regensburg, Bonn, Erfurt, Leipzig, Halle, Dresden, Potsdam, the capital Berlin, Hanover, Hamburg, Bremen, Kiel, and Rostock. Kiel is very important, where the Kiel mutiny happened, but we won't go into detail. So the plan. Hitler would go into the beer hall where Gustav Kahr, the Bavarian minister, was given a speech. The SA would control the crowd while Hitler took Kahr and the other ministers. Hitler would force Kahr to support him at gunpoint. They would then go to the town hall and declare a new government for Bavaria, separate from Weimar Germany. Ludendorff would get the army in Bavaria to support them. The Bavarian army would march to Berlin and take over Germany. Well, what went wrong? Hitler never really had enough support to pull it off in the first place. The Nazi Party only had 3,000 members, not enough to take charge of Germany. Ludendorff was late. Even at gunpoint, Kahr and the ministers wouldn't support Hitler because they thought he was lying about Ludendorff supporting him. This wasted several hours until Ludendorff finally turned up. Ludendorff allowed Kahr and the ministers to go home to see their wives. He assumed that this would be okay. The ministers immediately contacted the Weimar government in Berlin, who mobilised the army. A couple of days later, Hitler was arrested for treason while in hiding. Röhm and Ludendorff were also arrested. With everything falling apart, Hitler, Ludendorff, and the SA decided to march to the town hall. The army was waiting. 16 Nazis were killed in the fighting. Hitler was shot and ran away into hiding. The SA came under heavy gunfire when they tried to take over the Bavarian army barracks. This was not expected. Remember, the Munich Putsch was a fiasco. It was a bad idea, badly planned and badly executed. Very little went right for Hitler on the day, and it's important that you were able to explain some of the failures. Who were the SA? The SA were basically what was left of the old Freikorps, which had been broken up by the Weimar Republic after the Cat Push. They were led by Ernst Röhm, a butch ex-army captain with a dubious reputation for violence. Hitler met Röhm and persuaded him to join the Freikorps to the Nazi Party as a paramilitary, illegal political army force. They were called the SA, Sturmabteilung, stormtroopers, and wore distinctive brown shirts. They had a reputation for violence. But some successes. The main successes of Hitler's trial for treason. The judge liked him. He gave Hitler time to answer questions. However, he liked and make very long speeches against the government. During the trial, Hitler was able to win over the courtroom with his great speeches, his ideas, and his passion for change in Germany. Reporters from across Germany were there. This meant that everything Hitler said was written down in newspapers and read by Germans everywhere. This was huge publicity for the Nazis. Now the whole nation knew who they and Hitler were for the first time. Hitler became seen as a leader of the right wing. From being a nobody, he became that guy who tried to take over Munich. Lots of right-wing supporters saw him and the Nazis as their natural leader, as they were looking for a strong new government. Hitler got a light sentence. The judge sympathised with Hitler's ideas, and despite finding him guilty of treason, sentenced him to only 5 years. However, he would be eligible for parole in just 9 months. This is an incredibly light sentence for treason. Ludendorff and Röhm were released straight away. His prison was very cushy. Landsberg Castle was more of a hotel than a prison. Hitler could have as many visitors as he wanted, had as dedicated servant, and could walk around whenever he wanted. Hitler had the time to write Mein Kampf. Landsberg gave him time to write out his book, Mein Kampf, or My Struggle, where he set out all his ideas for the Nazi Party and Germany's future. The book is very boring, but everything Hitler later did is in it. And a source question. How far does this source prove that the Munich Putsch was a success for Hitler? 10 marks. Some ways to do it. L. Look and describe. Briefly explain what's happening in the picture. A. Analyse. Pick out parts like pictures on the wall and say what they mean. Think. What is this source about? What does it tell us about the time? How does it link to your knowledge? And E. Explain. Use the source and your own knowledge to explain the question. Use LATE for sources. The question says how far, so it's an iceberg. You will need to argue why the Munich Putsch was a success and a failure. Look and describe. Firstly, describe what the source is and what is happening. This itself will get you at least 1 or 2 marks. An example. Source A shows Hitler sitting at a table in Landsberg prison in 1924. He is surrounded by members of the Nazi Party and all of them are dressed casually. There are pictures on the wall, flowers, and one man is playing the banjo. Analyse. Now you need to explain what some of these things mean. The picture on the wall shows that Hitler was allowed his own things in prison and allowed to decorate his cell. The cell itself looks more like a hotel room with a wardrobe and a nice table with flowers, which shows that Hitler was allowed to make his cell extremely comfortable. This does not look like the cell of someone who was found guilty of treason. Hitler is probably having a meeting because he was allowed as many visitors as he wanted and ran the party from prison. This is why there was not so many Nazi members with him. Think. Now explain what the source is about. How does it link to your own knowledge of what was happening at the time? The source shows that Hitler was left off very lightly after being found guilty of treason. The penalty for treason should have been life in prison or death, but Hitler was given only 5 years and only had to serve 9 months. The source shows that even the prison he was in was very easy and comfortable, and items like the flowers prove he was treated very well. This shows one of the successes of the Munich Putsch, because the judge at his trial liked his ideas and let him make lots of speeches, then let him off very lightly. Hitler's time in Landsberg prison also caused one of his other successes, because he was able to write his book, Mein Kampf, and set out his ideas for the party. This brought the party more publicity. Explain. Now you need to make sure you answer the question. How far does it prove the push was a success? Bring in the other side of the argument now and really use own knowledge, but stick to the question. However, although the source shows one of the biggest successes of the push in Hitler being let off lightly, the source does not prove the push was a success because there was lots of other successes that the source does not show. The Nazi Party got lots of publicity in Germany because of the trial, making them known throughout Germany for the first time. This was very important for the Nazis because it made them more likely to get into power in the future. And this source does not show this. Also, Hitler was able to write his book and reorganise the Nazi Party to make it more electable. Again, the source does not tell us this. Also, the source does not prove that the push was a success because it was not completely successful. The point of the Munich Putsch was to take over Germany, and Hitler failed to do that. In fact, the putsch itself was a disaster. Ludendorff did not turn up until very late, meaning Kahr refused to join Hitler, and lots of valuable time was lost. The SA also expected the army to support them, but came under lots of gunfire they didn't expect. Even worse, Ludendorff let Kahr and the ministers go home, allowing them to alert the government in Berlin to what Hitler was doing. In the end, the putsch ended very badly, with 16 Nazis killed. This shows that the push was actually very unsuccessful because so much went wrong, and the success that Source A shows did not happen until afterwards. Therefore, Source A does not prove that the push was a success. It shows one successful part of it, but Hitler had lots of other successes at his trial, and the push was a disaster. But remember, don't worry that the above answer is too long, or you couldn't do something like that in the exam. It's a model exam answer to show you the process and the kind of things you should be thinking about when answering a question like this. It took much longer to type than you would have in an exam, so don't panic. Read the answer and take notice of the LATE process. It will remind you what to do. Most important is to use the source and own knowledge in your answer. If you don't show evidence of both, you will not get the above half marks. In the next video, we'll be looking at Nazi change of tactics between 1924 and 1929. So this is while the Golden Age going on, the Nazis are in full power. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.